Josh Barr was injured at the Big Ten tournament and looked pretty shaken up, but there is optimism that he will be ready to go for NCAAs.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State wrestling. Thanks so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day, the #1 daily Penn State sports podcast out there. And I'm your host, Zach Seyko. He is the voice of Penn State wrestling. Jeff Byers also hosts a morning show over on 98.7 The Fox. That's the Fox Sports Radio affiliate in State College. Links to Jeff's work outside of wrestling will be down in the description. Today's show is brought to you by TurboTax. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert. Well, we got plenty to get into as the NCAA pre-seeds have been released. Who has the best and worst path, or the most ideal, least favorable paths for Penn State wrestling? But before we even get to that, we got to start with Josh Barr and his availability. Question everybody's asking: will Josh Barr be ready for NCAAs? Jeff, you saw it happen in real time. The first time around, Barr looked a little shaken up early in that matchup against Isaiah Salazar. He's as tough as nails, kept going, and ultimately tried to wrestle through. And then something happened in the middle of that scramble, in the middle of that takedown, and then he had to be helped off the mat. And unfortunately, injury defaulted for the remainder of the Big Ten tournament. Doesn't get penalized, though, is the 4 seed going into NCAAs. So Josh Barr, I know it seems that the initial discourse across the wrestling media landscape says that Barr's going to be ready to go. But Jeff, what ultimately did you see in real time there?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to know. You know, I initially thought it was a knee injury and, wasn't sure if he was going to be able to go. And truthfully, I'm still not. I have not talked to, medical people or coaches this week yet. So, but they are very optimistic. I will say on the plane ride home, they were pretty confident. Now, again, they may have learned something here in the last couple of days that I'm not aware of, but they were pretty confident that he was going to be able to recover and give it a good go at the NCAA championship. So, I will say he has the best trainer, I think, in the business working with him. And I think, they obviously, the medical staff obviously realizes the importance of this match. They also obviously realize the importance of his long-term health. So they're not going to put somebody in a position where they're going to be a danger to themselves. But I would say I'm cautiously optimistic, but emphasis on the optimistic that we'll see Josh Barr at the NCAAs.
And that's because it looks serious in the moment. And I've been using the same verbiage as well, as that it has to. The reason I'm optimistic is because, as you mentioned, Dan Monthly and that training staff are easily the best in the country. You could honestly argue that they're the best across all of the sports with the way that they handle in terms of nutrition, recovery, and care for this Penn State wrestling team. And the results are there. Now, I know it's a little bit different, but Carter Starocci suffered a leg injury that, for most people, I know that Starocci is a beast in his own right, so that he would be able to overcome something like that. But because, and Starocci gives a lot of credit to Dan Monthly and the training staff for getting him ready for NCAAs. The difference here is that it's simply the timeline, because I look at Josh Barr as the same way, is that there's not a lot of things that can keep him off the wrestling mat. He was still trying to go when he looked a little shaken up the first time around, but it's because of Dan Monthly and this Penn State wrestling training staff that does give me the confidence to say that I am optimistic that Barr will be out there and be able to wrestle from his 4 seed at the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and again, you'd love to see it for the kid first and foremost, but certainly from the team race perspective, obviously he can bring some pretty valuable points for Penn State as well. So again, we'll wait and see what happens, but certainly hoping and I kind of believe we'll see him out there in Philly.
In your mind, because we've seen Braeden Davis kind of back and forth, just staying in it. In his circumstances are different, though. But you can see that with conditioning and just being in and out of the lineup throughout the season, that it just kind of disrupted the flow of things for Davis, maybe, that he couldn't be at his best because of what he had dealt with. But the point I'm trying to get to is that, does this change Barr's outlook as the 4 seed? I know obviously the simple answer is when you're 100% overall, you're going to be at your best and you can go up against anybody. But Barr goes into this tournament when he's 100% as an NCAA title contender. I still believe that he's a top 4 wrestler, but I do have my reservations now. Okay, if you get a rematch against Jacob Cardenas and you're not at your best self, can we almost all but guarantee that that's just might be too tall of a task for Barr this time around, as opposed to the first couple of times?
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of the fun of the tournament across the board is, they're going to wrestle and find out. There's going to be all kinds of projections and speculation. I think this is going to happen. I think this guy's not matching up there. I think this guy is matching up here. That's the fun of it. But the reality is the tournament is when it is. And if you're not feeling well that day and you catch a flu bug, it stinks. But the reality is, this is the tournament. This is the opportunity. So you strap it up and you give it your best shot. And whether that's good enough with the competition on a given day, given match, given tournament, again, that you got to find that out. I think Josh Barr goes in pretty confident in what he can do and his abilities. I know the coaching staff and the support staff believes 100% in him because of just how tough he is and the work he has put in to put himself in a position to go win a national title. And yeah, would you like to have seen Carter Starocci 100% last year? Would you love to see Josh Barr not have had any hiccups along the way, or Braeden Davis? Listen, the reality is very few of the guys are going into this tournament just feeling fresh as a daisy and 100%. Pretty much every team is dealing with some injuries along the way. It's just the nature of the sport. So again, you can sit around, feel sorry for yourself, and man, this is a bummer. I don't feel 100%. What am I going to do? Well, you're going to go out and wrestle, and
yeah, you don't have a choice.
Good enough or it's not. So that's what we're going to find out, and we're going to find that out whether Penn State kids or other kids are 100% or 80% or 50%. It's again, the tournament is when it is, and you got to go out and see what you can do.
The pre-seeds have been released. Penn State gets 4 top seeds in their respective brackets. Luke Lilledahl, Tyler Kasak, Carter Starocci, Mitchell Messenbrink all get top spots. There were some debates for where they could be. Plus, some people were surprised by this. Greg Kirkfleet is not the 2 seed. That actually, in the scheme of things, does not matter. So we're going to break it all down and start to go through who has the most favorable path, who's got a really tough path. That is all coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it can be easy to lose track of it. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you just stop managing money and start building wealth. And it's the surprising insights. When I started using Monarch, I realized where my spending was going on food delivery or subscriptions. And now I can budget smarter and save more. It's the all-in-one convenience. So instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check on your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. Easy collaboration with managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year. And today's episode is also brought to you by Factor. Are you looking to optimize your nutrition? Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle. So whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto, and Factor even offers things like wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. Factor takes the stress out of meal planning. So for example, take Protein Plus meals. They're packed with flavor, nutrients, and they will keep you feeling full throughout the day. It's the convenience. It's unbeatable. There's no prep. There's no mess. Just great food in minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege 50 off and use code LockedOnCollege 50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LockedOnCollege 50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege 50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Like I said, going into the break, Luke Lilledahl, Mitchell Messenbrink, Tyler Casack, and Carter Starocci were the 4 number 1 overall seeds in their respective weight classes. I thought Beau Bartlett had enough of a case to be a number 1 seed as well, and that means he's on a crash course with Jesse Mendez once again. Go figure. But Brock Hardy of Nebraska gets the number 1 seed. Overall, Jeff, when I was making my final predictions for the pre-seeds, I was right on 9 out of 10 of them. The only difference was I thought Bartlett would be number 1. Instead, he's number 2. But really, everything's kind of the status quo just based on how well these wrestlers performed, the way we saw them compete at Big Ten. So the writing was on the wall that most of these situations were going to be the way they ended up.
Yeah, it is an astounding accomplishment, and obviously it sets the table. It doesn't guarantee you anything. But to have 9 wrestlers as top 4 seeds going into an NCAA tournament is just insane. And to have the entire team seated in the top 8, of course, the top 8 are your All-Americans. Again, it doesn't guarantee anything, but it is in and of itself just a truly remarkable accomplishment. And, for the 4-1 seeds, I think Luke Lilledahl, I just thought, put some things together. He was wrestling well all throughout the season, but I thought you kind of saw him take that next jump. And, I know he got cradled up there by Macron, but I just thought he wrestled really, really well that final month or 5 weeks probably of the regular season. And it certainly carried over. And he's just a dynamic force. And then with Figueroa losing at the Big 12s, it just kind of opened up and kind of thought he was going to be the 1 seed. And again, that weight class has probably 4 or 5 guys, maybe more than that. But I think on paper, you're thinking 4 or 5 that have a real shot here at winning the national title if they can put together a good tournament. And certainly Luke goes in with a wave of momentum, a lot of confidence. And I think the way he's wrestling right now, I think he earned the 1 seed. And I think, again, it doesn't guarantee anything, but I think he is going to be a very tough out for anybody else in that field.
And that's just it. 125 is not random, but there are so many wrestlers, I think, here. Yeah, the 4 or 5, I think, can be grouped into hey, these are your most likely favorites, and Luke Lilledahl is in that conversation, but so is Matt Ramos, so is Eddie Ventresca of Virginia Tech, who's the 3 seed, Vincent Robinson of NC State as the 4 seed, but then I can't look past the likes of a Jet Strickenberger from West Virginia, or a Troy Spratley of Oklahoma State, and David Taylor, right? And then Richie Figueroa is that 5 seed. So up until the quarterfinals, I look at Lilledahl's path and I say that you might be facing the reigning NCAA champ in your semifinal to get to that championship. So you're certainly going to have to earn it if you're Lilledahl.
Yeah, and listen, the reality is all of these guys are going to earn it. Once you get into that quarterfinal round at any weight class and regardless of your seed, you're going to have your work cut out for you. Like these are there are a lot of great coaches. These are elite athletes. They've put a lot of work in, and again, nothing comes easy at this NCAA tournament, especially once you get to the quarterfinal round and beyond. And so, yeah, again, I really like Luke Lilledahl's chances. I love the way he's wrestling right now. I just think, he's exuding confidence out there in different situations. He is doing what the coaches are telling him to do, and he's seeing the results. And I think it's going to be a really fun tournament to see just what he can do in Philadelphia.
So he's the number 1 seed. You and I called it, Jeff. We expected him to win a Big Ten title, and it pays dividends here to get that top spot at NCAAs. Now, it's difficult to describe anybody's path across the board, whether they're a Penn State wrestler or not, as favorable. I guess the way it should be framed is the path of least resistance. And I think that belongs to Tyler Kasak. I think that mostly has to do with the way that Kasak is wrestling. I think 157 is not as strong as it could be, but if I had to identify one wrestler, I can't even identify 2 or 3 necessarily, maybe Mitchell Messenbrink as well, but he could wrestle Terrell Barraclaw in that semifinal. But to answer the question, who has the most favorable path? I would include Messenbrink just because he is the odds-on favorite at 165, and now Tyler Kasak, for me personally, has always been that odds-on favorite to win at 157, but I don't see anybody disrupting his path because of the season that he's had to get to that championship. It will most likely be Meyer Shapiro on the other side. Never say never, of course, but those are the 2 wrestlers that I say that, yes, if we have to answer the question, these are the 2 that have the path of least resistance, if you will.
Yeah, and if that is the finals matchup, and I'm anticipating that as well, that is going to be a great one. I mean, I think that is going to be one of the more anticipated showdowns, because Shapiro is a different kind of wrestler himself. I just again, I love the way Tyler Kasak has wrestled this entire season. He has improved his game. He is he can beat you with some slick moves, but he just has that grittiness that when the move is needed, you just feel like he's going to make it. He just has a confidence, and it's a confidence born through all of the work that he has put in. And I just think I'm with you. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for anybody to upend Kasak, certainly until he gets into the finals. And again, Shapiro is a very special talent, and if that is the championship match, I think it's going to be a really fun one. And certainly, again, I love Tyler Kasak's chances here of winning the title, just because he is one, so doggone strong, and 2, just wrestling at a lights out level very, very consistently.
If we had to choose the wrestler that's going to have the most difficult path, and it's not to look past, hey, Levi Haynes is most likely going to face Dean Hamity. If Shane Van Ness wants to get to his respective championship, he'll have to go through Ridge Lovett most likely. But it's you have to wait until those semifinals to get that potential coin flip type of match. Braeden Davis is the correct choice, and that mostly has to do with seeding. When you're the 8th seed, and Braeden Davis, I think people overlook this quite a bit, is that he picked up some quality wins along the way, despite not being 100% this season. Against number 3 seed Nasir Bailey, against number 9 seed Braxton Brown of Maryland, who he most likely will face in that second round in order to get to Lucas Bird. I know that he lost to Lucas Bird. I know that he didn't put his best match forward against Jacob Van D, but he did beat Nick Bazakis. He did beat Dylan Shaver. He defeated Bailey. He defeated Brown. So that shows that Davis, it's back and forth with him. You would like to see a little more consistency, but as an 8th seed, he can do it. Unfortunately, if you want to surprise some people, you're really going to have to pull off one of the biggest surprises of this entire tournament, not just at 133, and knock off Lucas Bird, who would be at this point in time, my favorite to win the NCAA title.
Yeah, and I think if you're Braeden, you look at it as, man, what an opportunity here to go shock the world. And I think the fact that he had that feel against Bird earlier in the season gives him an idea of what he needs to adjust, what he needs to work on. in that matchup. Yeah, Bird earned the 1 seed for a reason and looked extremely good all throughout the Big Ten tournament and certainly in the finals. Victory over Ayala in impressive fashion. So, it's a very tough matchup. Again, you're going to earn anything you get at this tournament. If he does lose it and has to come back through wrestlebacks, I think he'll be ready to do that because he knows the disappointment from a year ago of not getting on the podium. But again, the one thing that has been, not the one thing, one of the things that this program has been very good about and very consistent with is turning around late season results at the NCAA tournament. So again, it is a very tough matchup, certainly not a given, and Davis will rightfully be the underdog. But I think he will be looking forward to the opportunity to avenging the earlier loss to Bird. And, again, we'll see what happens. It's why you go out and wrestle in this tournament.
Levi Haines versus Dean Hamity, potentially, right? These are some of the hypotheticals. But Levi Haines and Dean Hamity, Shane Van Ness and Ridge Lovett, Beau Bartlett and Jesse Mendez. Greg Kirkley gets the 3 seed. Talked about it a little earlier that in the scheme of things, it doesn't matter because you're going to have to go through Wyatt Hendrickson. So of those 2-3 matchups between the Penn State wrestler and their counterpart, which one's going to be the most exciting? Somehow we're going to decide that one coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you're going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. That is TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, Jeff, I teased it going into the break, but when I think about it, through it, Beau Bartlett and Jesse Mendez, Shane Van Ness, Ridge Lovett, Levi Haines, Dean Hamity, and Greg Kirkley and Wyatt Hendrickson, all those 2-3 matchups are as amazing as advertised. That could be a championship. All of those could be championships in their own right. And we get them potentially one bout earlier because they have to go through each other in those semifinals if they want to, if they're all still alive, right? Anything could happen. But with how strong each of those wrestlers are, I do fully expect Van Ness and Lovett to meet Hendrickson and Kirkley. And Kirkley being the 3 seed doesn't change a lot at the end of the day. The good thing is that he doesn't have to be on the same side of the bracket as Stevenson. So that's how it matters in the scheme of things. I feel bad for Owen Treffin of Lehigh, but Kirkley and Hendrickson had a strong enough resume where they were the 2 and 3 seed and nobody was going to challenge that. If you had to pick which matchup you would be most excited to watch, I'm going to go with Haines and Hamity because they haven't wrestled yet. And there's this intrigue that, okay, in my mind, Hamity is right there with O'Toole and Haines, that this is a 3-man race. Other people say, no, it's O'Toole and it's Haines and it's everybody else. I've seen enough wrestling from Dean Hamity to know that he's included in that group. So which of those 4 hypothetical matchups do you think that, man, this is must-watch TV and I can't wait for this one to unfold?
Yeah, I mean, I think they all are very intriguing. I would add Cardenas and Barr in there because I think that is going to be a really wild semifinal bout if, again, they both get there because I think, we've seen through 2 bouts now that it's a toss-up. And I think, it's tough. There's different things with the different matches. The one that probably, if you're asking me what I'm most intrigued by, it would be the Bartlett-Mendez one. And my reasoning is only because this is Beau Bartlett's final opportunity to try to capture a national title here for Penn State. All of the others we mentioned, Kerkvliet, Hendrickson. I feel very confident in Kerkvliet's chances there.
I do too.
Again, nothing's a given in this tournament, but I am fully expecting Kerkvliet to win that bout. I think it'll be a very good bout. I think it'll be a hotly contested one, but I just think Kerkvliet, at the end of the day, is the better wrestler, and so I'm expecting him to ultimately win it. But 149, to me, Mendez suddenly feels vulnerable after a fourth place finish at the Big Ten tournament, and now having lost the last two meetings to Bartlett. But I just have to believe that is doing nothing but adding fuel to the fire for Mendez, and he is going to come out on an absolute mission, and with maybe a greater sense of purpose than he's had, which is a very scary thought for the rest of the
competition, field. Right?
That being said, I just love the approach that Beau Bartlett has right now, and I think he has had two extremely smart and well-wrestled matches against Mendez. And I think he just has that confidence right now that he's going to be the one that finds a way to win it. Again, he knows he was in position to win it last year, got in behind Mendez, just needed to get him to the mat. Obviously, we know what happened, and he didn't. And all credit to Mendez. I mean, it was a great counter, and he went out and earned the title. But I really think, in three of the last four meetings, Bartlett has had the upper hand. And so that one really intrigues me, though, because, again, to me, every time those guys meet, it's a coin flip match. And I think it's just fun wrestling and elite level wrestling. I do agree with you. Hamity Haynes, I think, is just going to be a wild bout. You have two guys that love to get out after it. Love to put points on the board. I think that one is going to be, if you're asking me, maybe the most entertaining. I think it's that one. And I think the toughest matchup, but I like Penn State's chances, is the Van Ness Lovett. I was really, really impressed with the way Lovett wrestled and competed out at the Big Ten tournament. Obviously, he has the major decision victory over Van Ness earlier. I think Van Ness will make some adjustments and will be very, very excited if he gets that opportunity to wrestle Lovett again in the semifinals. And again, I think it'll be a match where a lot of points go up on the board, or if not points, at least a lot of situations where you're thinking it's going to lead to points. Again, they're both good enough that they may be able to counter. But I mean, I think there's going to be a ton of scoring opportunities anyway for both wrestlers in that bout. And I think, much like the Haynes-Hamity bout, I don't think fans, whether you have a dog in the fight or not, are going to want to miss those matches.
I think for the sake of it, just to throw it out there, I know that I am confident that Messenbrink would win and win decisively and everything. And I also want to include Carter Starocci, because we haven't talked about him. He's going for a 5th NCAA championship here, so we'll finish up the show with him. But the idea of Terrell Barraclaw and Mitchell Messenbrink in a potential semifinal for a 1 versus 4 seed. Now, it is not a guarantee, because Julian Ramirez of Cornell, you could make the case to me that he might be the second best overall wrestler in that 165-pound weight class. You could convince me of it. I think Caliendo's obviously as strong as he is, Peyton Hall of West Virginia. But at the end of the day, I am rooting for Messenbrink and Barraclaw, because now we'll get to see all the scrapping and everything that happened behind the scenes in the Penn State mat room, now under the spotlight between Messenbrink and Barraclaw, because they had to go up against one another in practice every single day for quite some time.
Yeah, and I think it would just be a testament again to just how strong that the depth at Penn State has been here, and obviously remains this season. But I'm hoping for Terrell's sake that he at the very least gets on the podium. I mean, obviously that's what, at the very least, I mean, he wants to win a national title, but he wanted to get the opportunity to compete and be the guy out there scoring points and wrestling in the NCAA championship. So I'm glad he gets that opportunity. I think it'd be a cool thing for Penn State fans if we do get that matchup in the semifinals. And again, Mitchell is going to be favored pretty strongly over anybody in the field. And, certainly if he wrestles the way he has been, I think, he's ultimately going to come out on top. But it would be just a great storyline, I think, for the Penn State program.
Carter Starocci should not be left out. Anytime we're going to have initial takeaways about an NCAA title run or the way that the championships can unfold, Starocci here is kind of the best for last in this case, just because it is. I don't want to say that anything's guaranteed or anything that is a given, but it's just because Carter Starocci is head and shoulders above the competition. Now, Max McAnally gave him everything that he could handle, and that was quite an exciting bout. But you can still see that there is a distance between Starocci and even the likes of McAnally, who has arrived at this time. For the sake of it, if I'm Parker Kakaisen, I know he's handling his business, but Max McAnally being on your side of the bracket doesn't do anybody any favors if you're Parker Kakaisen. But when I look at Starocci's side, Dustin Plott, I know he was the runner-up a season ago, but Starocci, I just think is so much better than everybody else on this side. And Kakaisen's the only one and McAnally that are going to give him the most challenging fights, but still, Starocci is my favorite to win a fifth NCAA title here. I really don't see anybody stopping him.
Yeah, the one thing, it's just hard, I think, and not that I would know, obviously, I'm never going to be in this position. There is a different kind of pressure that comes with the type of history that Carter's chasing here. Now, he obviously has some really good guys to help him manage that, and he is really good at managing that himself, as we've seen. I don't know that people appreciate just how much pressure is on there and how much these other coaches and wrestlers are looking for that opportunity to be the guy that derails that history in the making. So this is he's got his work cut out. I will just say it is, I guarantee you, this is not a given that he gets to the finals. This is very, very difficult waters that he's navigating here. Now, do I think he's going to navigate it well? And again, does anybody ever make a lot of money betting against Carter Starocci? Nope, because this guy just has a competitive edge to him. I don't think there's a lot of separation in terms of wrestling ability between him and Parker Kakaisen. And I know Kakaisen has been gunning for him since that All-Star loss. And I think, again, if that is the matchup, it is going to be a barn burner of a match. And Carter is going to have to work his tail off to find a way to win. And McAnally, again, Kakaisen's no lock there because McAnally is just a different breed of wrestler himself. And obviously he knows just how close he was there to Carter. And he's not a guy that's going to be content with, hey, I at least kept it close with a five-time, would-be five-time champ. So, yeah, I mean, I love Carter's chances, and again, he just has a competitive edge, unlike anybody I've seen. But make no mistake, he is going to have to go out and earn it. And if he does accomplish this, it rightfully will go down as one of the all-time great accomplishments in the sport.
That'll do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Some initial takeaways for the NCAA tournament precedes as every Penn State wrestler knows their respective path. He is the voice of Penn State wrestling. That is Jeff Byers. He also hosts a morning show on 98.7 The Fox in-state college, the Fox Sports Radio affiliate. Links to Jeff's work outside of wrestling will be down in the description. I highly encourage everyone to check them out. My name is Zach Seyko, your host of Locked On Nittany Lions, the #1 daily Penn State sports podcast out there. Leave a like on this episode, share it with friends and family. Of course, let us know your thoughts down in the comments section. And if you're not already, become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast to keep up with the latest conversations around Penn State wrestling and all your favorite Penn State sports teams. Jeff, thank you so much for the insight, the analysis, and the time, most importantly, as always, and can't wait to preview this tournament in full in due time.
Thanks, Zach.